up in Aspen, I mean, I lived there for 3 years. I met a lot of celebrities there, not as many as like when I was in LA. I remember once I sold a bottle of Malbec to Antonio Banderas, and I couldn't stop saying Antonio Banderas to his face. I turned around, I'm like, Antonio Banderas. He's like, my friend,
Yeah.
do you have a bottle of Malbec? I'm like, yes, I do, Antonio Banderas. I go, how was skiing? He's like, oh, great. He was there for like the celebrity ski thing or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, oh.
No, he lived there for a while.
Oh, did he live there? Okay, yeah. And I just kept saying, here you go, Antonio Banderas. Would you like to put that on the room? He's like, absolutely. And he's got his face like in that like permanently fixed position of like one eyebrow down and one eyebrow up and like a weird smile. I'm
like he's deciding if he's going to shoot you or not.
He's like, oh, my friend. I'm like, what are you like? Are you like plastic surgerized like just to be into that state? I don't know. But anyway, so you must have like run into people. I was only there for 3 years, like Drew Carey, Antonio Banderas, Kevin Costner, Kurt Russell.
Yeah, so there's like Antonio Banderas and Melanie Griffith, when they were married, lived there a lot. I had a friend who taught their kid in like elementary school. Kevin Costner was there a lot. There was like a long Michael Jordan stint for a while where I remember going to a club with a crew, and one of the drunk girls that was like one of my friends kept trying to dance with Michael Jordan, and he had like these two giant security guys that would like nicely step in and dance with her off to the edge of the floor until she went away because she ain't that hot.
Oh my god! I remember Johnny Manziel came in when I was there, the quarterback, and he like had a weekend at Escobar, and then that was the Monday he checked into rehab. That's Aspen.
I had a buddy who was a bouncer, and he should have been a comic but wasn't, and he kept acting like he didn't know who Dan Marino was when he was trying to get into a bar. He's like, sorry, we're at capacity. He's like, I'm Dan Marino. I was like, yeah, well, I don't follow golf, but...
Oh my god, it's hilarious. Show me the isotoners or you're not getting past me.
Yeah, you'd see like, okay, so dual story that's a little funny. I was like playing guitar at an open mic, and I'm like a dickhead who talks to everybody, and I'm talking to some guy. I'm about to go up, and he happened to be friends with Kevin Costner, and they were at the bar, and Kevin Costner rolls up. He's like, hey, buddy, you about to go up? And I was like, yeah, I am. He goes, you got a tambourine? I'll jam with you. And I was like, I got maracas in my car, Kevin.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Kevin Costner's
maracas. I don't know what's funnier, like Kevin Costner wants to jam with you, or that you have maracas in your
car. I mean,
car.
I don't think he was serious, but he was trying to be nice. And he's like, sorry, buddy, tambourines are nothing. Well, meanwhile, the thing that I didn't spring on him is that I was raised a Jehovah's Witness in Aspen, and there was this like Mexican woman that was going to church with me all the time that I knew, and she was a nanny for this woman who she would bring this little like super blonde little like 4-year-old kid to church all the time, and she's like, it's Kevin Costner's kid, except he won't admit that it's his kid.
Oh no, okay.
And so this is going on forever, and then like a year later, you read in the papers, the woman actually sues him, and it is his kid. They do a paternity test, and he has to start paying
oh my god
back child support for this little kid.
The kid's rich.
And now the kid's a Jehovah's Witness. Well, no, he's not. But it's the kind of crap you see it.
So yeah, that's Aspen. And you got out of that. You realized some things about yourself. You had some self-realization. You got into comedy. But before that, you got married. You've been married.
Okay, so
This is how you speak Spanish, right?
Yeah, so I've always kind of been into the Spanish thing. So when I got out of high school, I just traveled Europe, and I stayed in Spain for like 6 months, and I really forced myself to speak Spanish, learned it well. Came back, still a Jehovah's Witness, and I had a construction company. So I would speak Spanish frequently and got good at it. Then I meet this beautiful Bolivian Jehovah's Witness and fall in love and marry her and go to Bolivia for like 7 years.
That's where Mike Tyson's going to go. He's going to fade into Bolivian.
Me and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and Mike Tyson.
I love it. So you go to Bolivia with this girl.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that work out?
Well, I'm pretty adaptive, so I figured out how to like just start businesses there. I got involved in the timber industry. I made a lot of friends of like, okay, so here's a funny story. They take advantage of tourists or like, gringos as anywhere they will. So I take a laptop in to get fixed at some place because they fix everything. And I come back 2 days later, the guy's like, we don't got your laptop. We don't know what you're talking about. But the funny thing though is that like I have all the connections there. And so I'm talking to my wife's cousin who's like a DA basically. And he's like, call this guy, give him $20, he'll get your laptop back.
District attorney, by the way.
Yeah, which means that you're the same thing as the criminals in that country. So this like this like 6'5" brute of a Bolivian dude shows up, and he's super nice to me because he knows my cousin. He's like, I'll figure this out for you. I give him $20. He goes into this shop. He's back in like 5 minutes with my laptop.
Wow.
And I'm like, what'd you do? He's like, I told him it was your laptop. Don't worry about it.
Someone's bleeding on the floor in the back room.
No, I don't think anything like that happened.
Okay.
Fast forward. Why this is a good story is fast forward to 2 years later. I'm good friends with this Dutch guy who is running a Dutch timber mill down there. And one night he's like, I have some connections to this amazing party at this giant mansion out on the edge of town. It's 2, maybe 3 years after that story. We go out to this giant mansion. There's like Hummers and Land Rovers and Range Rovers parked out front. And we go into this party that's very opulent. And he introduces me to the host. And the host is the dude that got my laptop back for me 3 years later.
Up, dude. That's hilarious.
Because he knew the right people. And basically, Bolivia had the trajectory of like, they kicked out the DEA while I was there. Stopped all connection to the U.S. and just decided to grow as much cocaine as they could.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
This guy went from give me $20 for your laptop to like having like a $5 million house in a country where
fucking awesome. Palatial manor.
Yep.
He's doing errands.
He's all hugging me. He's like pointing to his guards. He's like, "This is my friend Louis. You give him whatever he wants."
It's a good guy to know. We should go down there. Take me down there. I took you to Belize. Let's go to Bolivia and find that dude.
I will go with you anytime. It is the Wild West. It's pretty wild. I don't think I know that guy anymore, but I can get you some free beers maybe.
So, in addition to being an international man of mystery, well, speaking of that, you went to Scotland.
Yeah, so...
How did this come about?
Comedy is such a screwball thing. I was thinking about this tonight, how, like, if you want to be involved in almost any industry, like, if you wanted to be a lawyer, let's say you're not good enough, you can't pass the bar. Somebody tells you, you find something new. Comedy, like, there's no test. You don't know. You just keep, like, just throwing shit up against the wall and seeing what sticks. You don't know if you're good. You don't know if you're bad.
It all depends. Like, even when you're good, sometimes, like, the audience sucks.
Right? So, 2 years ago, I'm in New York City, and I have a buddy running a show at this place called the Grizzly Pear, which is, I think it's the West Village. It's right next to the Comedy Cellar. It's, like, 2 doors down. And there's all these,
It's off-Broadway.
Off-Broadway, yeah. No, but it was like, it's where there's a bunch of, because the Comedy Cellar has like 2 or 3 rooms there now. And then knowing that they're always sold out, there's all these other bars that have just like turned into comedy clubs because they get like the overflow traffic, whoever can't get in there. And then plus great comics will come for like a spot. So I have a great set there, as a lot of comics do. I'm up and I'm down. That night, whatever, magic happened. It went really well for me. And there happens to be a guy on the show who's from London, who pretty good, pretty well-known comedian in the UK, Darius Davies, and he's like, man, that was great. You got to come over to the Edinburgh Fringe Fest. And it had just happened at that point, so he invited me back last year, which it got canceled for COVID. We stayed in contact, and he brought me back this year, and having little kids and everything, I could only go for like 3 days, but he's like, doesn't matter. I can get you on a bunch of stuff. And I just showed up, and he got me 18 shows in 2.5 days. Like,
wow, dude. You must have been on point by that 18th show.
Oh, it was wild. It was a great experience because the crowds are different. You can't, there's like so many references to American culture that you don't realize that you're doing. I have like a joke about furries that I do.
Right.
And I was able to figure out how to make it work, but like you just have to change up your style a little bit. Try not to be like the dickhead American, too arrogant kind of a thing.
Right.
But 18 shows. It was literally like I got to my lodging at like 6:30 and I did 3 sets that night. Went to bed, got up the next day, and at noon I had my first show the next day. And I'm like, fuck, noon.
Yeah, noon's tough.
Edinburgh Fringe Fest, it's in a basement.
It's dark, no windows.
Sold out room of 120 people at noon.
That's amazing, dude.
I do 7 sets that day. I do 8 sets the next day.
Wow.
I just party until I have to leave for the airport at 4 a.m, get on a plane at 6 the next day, and, come home. So I did, 18 sets in like 2.5 days, basically.
Fucking comedy. It's so weird.
It was awesome. And the people were brilliant. The city's amazing. Edinburgh's incredibly beautiful. It was a lot of fun.
Speaking of, you got little kids, you have a bit. I would love for you to do a bit. Normally I don't like you to do bits. I want authentic Lewis, but like I really love this bit. It's biological. It's about watching your child be born.
Yeah. The fact that babies have a soft spot on their head?
This is the one.
Yeah, so I'll preface this by saying I came up with this bit exactly at the moment it happened, and I have photographic evidence, and I'm standing in front of nurses trying not to laugh. But the bit is basically that we all know babies have a soft spot on their head. That's common knowledge, and I always thought that came from sex during pregnancy, right? I'm not packing a lot of heat, but with 255 pounds of wild driving ass, you can do some damage. So turns out that's not it at all. It turns out that the soft spot on my son's head serves a function. It allows for his skull to get sort of mushed down into this cone shape so that it will fit through the birth canal. And I saw that and I was like, damn, it's only day one and pussy's already messing with his head?
Bam! I love that joke.
And I shit you not, I was literally looking at his head coming out, and like the nurse is about to have me like snip the umbilical cord, and I'm like, she's like, what? I'm like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. We'll write this down later. Do you have a pen? I don't understand that. Like, why does the husband have to be in there? You know what I mean? The dad, like, doing the snipping. I mean, how'd you feel about that? Did you feel like you were like, I have to do this, or this is fucking horrible and gross, and I may pass out?
Okay, so my son, it was 100% bullshit. Let me just say that. And the reason I say that is because they literally like it was a really long labor, and so there were some like medical questions like to make sure everything's good. And so they actually like pulled him out, cut the umbilical cord like a foot long, and put him on a bed. And they're like, "Do you want to cut the umbilical cord?" And so I came over to my son who was disconnected and had like a little like clamp on his umbilical cord, and then like another 10 inches sticking up. I'm like, okay, it's total bullshit. It's like
the ceremonial.
Yeah, it's like clipping it's like when like the governor snips the ribbon on the breaking ground of the new
right.
Like
does the shovel? He gets a weed out.
Yeah, and then catches a helicopter back to the Malibu or whatever. Like it's absurd. And
I got to tell you, because like you're with a medical professional, and I don't trust medical professionals. You know, especially surgeons.
Okay.
Like, if you can cut into a person, you should either vomit or cum your pants, depending on where you are in the psychopathy scale. You know what I mean?
Well, that's 100% accurate. Yeah, the stuff that they can just deal with. I mean, there's endless stories that she just deals with a straight face.
She's like, ER, right?
Yeah.
So you hear some shit. Is it over dinner?
It is weird how like she doesn't give a shit, and when she tells you like you don't know the story. You gotta be
a little bit psychopath to deal with that.
I think they just go through it every day. It's like a soldier, like you just see it every day.
It's like the way me and you are numb to porn. They're numb to injury.
Yeah, or I mean, as a comedian, it's like I was out at an amusement park last month in New York, and I got in a fight because these people wanted to like cut line so they could get with their family. I'm like, no, you can't go ahead of me, and all these people start screaming at me. And all my in-laws who are like, he's like a civil engineer. They're like, oh my God, that was so bad. I'm like, I talk about my dick on stage in front of strangers.
Yeah, I'll tell these people not to
I don't give a fuck line. At all.
Yeah.
And like to her level, like she told me a story not too long ago about a guy who came in and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And I don't even remember all the details, but at one point, like the nurses are like, we don't know what's going on. And he's just here from Portland and we don't know what's going on. And she goes in and she pulls back the bed sheets and she's like, excuse me, sir, is that semen on the bed? And right then the nurse walks in and they have like a report from some hospital in Portland. Like, this man has some weird psychopathy where he like gets off on nurses changing a diaper for him and he's not actually incontinent.
Oh my God.
And the guy was acting like his stomach was going to explode. And she's like, is that the case? He's like, yep. And he just jumps up and like puts his pants on and walks out.
Oh my God.
And she just like not fazed. Like, because she tells me like she's downtown Denver emergency room, but like 30% of the patients are like a drug addict or a homeless person or just like some psycho with some like, some guy
jerking off nurse diaper fetish.
I didn't even know that was an option.
No.
I should have looked into that one.
I mean, I thought I was weird.
I know. I'm super weird. I like having sex with adult females that are into it. Consensual sex with adult women, which is weird nowadays. Like nobody's into that anymore.
Speaking of which, sometimes when you are having sex with adult females, Lewis, it's not always the case, is it? Sometimes
I've never had sex with a non-adult female. I've come close. Is that what you're trying to say?
I think that's what we're talking about here.
Okay. Greg's talking about a joke I recently told.
But it's not a joke. It started off as a story with me. We started talking about it. You weren't really sure if this was going to translate to the stage. And it was like one of those things that was like, it wasn't a joke that you wrote. It was an authentic Lewis story experience that happens